you had mentioned a couple times that you were always a soldier. How
Yeah.
did that? Did it in any way help you during boot camp, or did it maybe hinder you because you had an idea of what you were about to go through?
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because there's so much going on within any sort of new group of guys getting together. You know, everybody's trying to find a way to fit in, and you know, it's like, you know, there's a lot that happens. So in terms of my previous experiences, it really didn't. In anything, I probably hid out and tried to, you know, on some level, try not to be the alpha male. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, hey, you know what? I can hang out on the sideline, and I'm just going to do this like it's something I haven't done really before, and just kind of go on this adventure and learn what I can, and just experience this, and kind of almost more from a sideline, more from a witness.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's kind of where I was at, and you know, because my dad, you know, you have to understand, my dad was jumping out of, you know, planes and jumping out of balloons, actually, because they couldn't afford planes.
Wow.
They would do this. They would literally, he would go up in a small little hot air balloon, just him and maybe another guy, small little hot air balloon, and they would send this hot air balloon up, right? And you would have to unlatch a hatch in the hot air balloon, and you would fall through it. You would literally, you just let yourself go right through that hatch. So you would have no, there was no like wind resistance or anything like that. You know, no wind resistance. You would just fall, like, I mean, oh my, you know what I'm saying?
Like a stone.
Yeah.
You would fall like a stone. It would be silent, and he would tell me about it. It was like a bungee jump from I don't know how many thousand feet, you know what I mean? And nothing attached to your feet. You just go boom, and just like, I mean, it's amazing to think about that. That's because they didn't have any money. So they would just be sending up troops, and that's how you'd practice jumping out. So, I mean, my dad was definitely had that in him, and even though I didn't grow up too much with him, when I was around him, he had that kind of sergeant, that drill sergeant energy about him.
Let's go back to, let's continue to talk about the boot camp. Tell us some funny stories, and if you could, throw in some Dale Dye.
Dale Dye, I mean, he is just, for me, it's just like, he's something else. You have to have, I mean, I'm just thinking about him. He's the best. I'm sure you have a bunch of those guys doing his how does he do?
The impersonation?
Yeah, I bet you have. I mean, Jimmy is brilliant at that. Did you get Jimmy Matthews?
Yeah, Jimmy did it, and Michael Kudlitz did it, and
they're really good. You want to have them do it. I wouldn't be able to. I like the fact that you have the best ones. I'm gonna keep that in your memory. I love Dale Dye. And you know, boot camp was very interesting. I think the funny thing was afterwards when we were all these actors, you know, a lot of these actors, and they were having to do all these different routines and having to run and march and all this kind of stuff. And then when we got to set, I think everybody was thinking that, you know, we're not going to be doing any more of this. And then when Dale Dye started to get everybody to march to set and not go to their trailers, that was the best. I thought that was the best. No one could go to their trailers. And pretty soon the agents started calling, and that was the end of that. Pretty soon agents started calling, and trailers. Yeah, it was time to become the actors. You know, and I think that there's something about that was really important. The line, keeping, because you have to save your energy on some level to act. You know, so you have to preserve yourself, and at the same time you're trying to deepen your connection with these characters and this this unit. So it was a balancing act. But boot camp was really amazing. I remember when one of the most interesting nights, which is probably the hardest night for me, definitely the hardest night, was when we had to stay up and do it when we were on watch, and we were waiting to be attacked. And I was on might have been 2:00 in the morning. We were there. I had 3 hours to kind of just sit out and just kind of stare out of a window, and just kind of see if I watch out for any of the enemy. And it was really
how long was your watch?
Really hard.
How long was your watch?
I think it was like
for?
3 hours or
wow.
something like that. 3 hours just to stare and into a little. I remember just kind of a little window, and I was just kind of up against this window. It was so cold, and everybody was sleeping, and beneath me, and there was another guy on the other side, and we were just standing looking out, and it was such a strong experience. It really gave me that sense of what it could be like, and what it was like to kind of push yourself and have to be on alert and have to strain against just wanting to go back and lie down, but you had to do this. You had to watch out for your men, and that was a really powerful experience. It reminded me, in recent years I've done more and more of this kind of work with intensity, and I did what they call in the Native American tradition, and actually a lot of different traditions throughout the world, they call it a vision quest. And you know what that is?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so quest, you go out and you're out in the woods, and you basically sit there for 4 days, and you're by yourself, right? So you're by yourself and you have no food, and you're in a circle. You basically you draw a circle around you, so you don't leave your circle. It's a 10-foot circle, and you have to sit in there for 4 days without any food, and you have some water. But it's that was for me when I think that was almost like the first time that I had to stretch myself was in boot camp. And then years later, when I went on that vision quest, it was the same sort of thing, and it was almost like there was something that I had been doing. There was something that I was doing that it was like a seed for me in that experience that I wanted to. It was a different reason. The vision quest was different in terms of I wasn't on lookout, but I was having to put myself in a situation. I was in a situation where I was having to deal with the reality of just being alert, and the whole thing of staying alert and staying present while there's nothing going on. You know what I mean? And I remember watching that sun every day. And the sun would come over behind me and pass over me, and I would just watch it. And it would take such a long time. I remember the midday sun would just take forever. You couldn't even believe it was moving. I didn't even know it was moving. And then I started to check, because I would just kind of watch it, of course, because I had nothing else to do but watch these things. So in the morning, I started to see that the sun was actually coming up over it. It had a different path every day. It would take a slightly different path every day, and sometimes it would come over a certain branch, in a certain part of the hill. Another time it would come over a little bit to the left, and it would just every day slightly different. And I was like, I'd never known that. I always thought the sun would be coming over exactly the same, the same path every day, but it didn't. And it was really interesting. So I can only imagine. When you're put in those positions, when you're out there and you're having to be alert, what you actually see, the life, the world that you actually connect with, that you never would notice in civilian life.